for coming on time and punish those who are coming late simultaneously? Because I'm full of vengeance.
Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
So, the topic of forgiveness is interesting because many devotees don't feel or believe or understand or know that this is a topic which is explained in many places in our scriptures. And it's an important topic. So some of you may know it's explained, but some of you may not think it's that relevant or important. So, I want to read some things Prabhupada said. I just have to find it. I thought I had found the quotes. And, yes. So, while we're waiting for devotees to come, I just wanted to read some quotes. So it gives you an idea what our Shastra says about forgiveness and what Prabhupada says about forgiveness. This is from the 9th canto of Bhagavatam. The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. So, what's so both interesting and important about this is that we see that Krishna is pleased when a devotee acts in kind ways towards other people. And elsewhere Prabhupada said that. Krishna is pleased when a devotee is kind to other people. So here Prabhupada says, Krishna is pleased with those who are forgiving. So that's interesting, isn't it? Just by being forgiving, you can please Krishna, vice versa. By not being forgiving, you're displeasing Krishna. You know in the Bible that verse where Jesus said, how you treat the least of them? What's the verse? This is, how you treat the least of them is how you treat me. Is that the verse? Who knows?
If you want to others, if they want
No. As you treat the least. The way you deal with another person, even a very ordinary person. The way you treat them is exactly how I feel you treating me.
That's a good paraphrase.
Yeah. So I have a story. This is a beautiful story. A devotee told me there was a teacher in a religious school, and she asked the students to bring a picture of someone they hated, and so they all brought the pictures. And then she put each picture on the wall one by one and gave them darts, and they threw darts at the picture and take the next picture down. So everybody got to throw darts at the person they hated. But what they didn't realize was behind all the pictures that she had put up, there was another picture. It was just covered by a sheet of paper. And so when she pulled everyone's pictures off, she came to this white sheet of paper, pulled it off. It was a picture of Jesus, and of course it was full of holes. And then she quoted that verse. So you're hating this person, that means you're hating me. And so what's interesting about it, we know, our philosophy teaches us that if you love God, you love everyone. It also teaches us if you hate God, you hate everyone. So what's scary about that, or if you envy God, you envy everyone. So what's scary about that, if you have envy, which we all have, we can't have it unless there's envy towards Krishna, and that's hard to admit. Raise your hand if you would like to admit you have envy towards Krishna. Raise your hand if you can't even comprehend having envy towards God. Yeah, it's very difficult to comprehend. But the fact that we have it towards anybody it could not exist if we didn't have it towards Krishna. In the same way, you can't love anyone unless you love Krishna. So, how it goes this way, it goes this way. You can't, some people, that's Kanishthadakarya. Oh, I just go straight to God. Who cares about everybody else? And so, Bhaktisiddhanta, he described a principle, I mentioned this the other day, it's called jana aparad. Jana aparad means an offense to a jana. Jana means person. So we always talk about Vaishnava aparad. Do you ever talk about jana aparad, offending ordinary people? Because we think you can't offend an ordinary person, because they're demons. How can you offend a demon? They're already demons. There's no such thing as offending a demon. Yeah, that's ridiculous. So there's this principle called jana aparad. You're offending an ordinary person, mistreating them or criticizing. So, isn't it interesting to know that if we're respectful and non-envious and not resentful towards ordinary people, Krishna's pleased? Because we think, no, it's just for devotees. And especially, not really for the bhaktas, but for the older devotees. Well, not so much older, but the Prabhupada. Well, really, it's just for the guru. And so the higher you go up, the more that shows your ignorance and your lack of Krishna consciousness. If you think respect is only for the top, and below you can offend. So one Russian devotee told me, he said, yeah, well, the philosophy in Russia is you kiss the feet of the superior and you punch the nose of the person under you. That's basically how it works. Is that true? Anybody can verify that from Russia? Or countries around Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan. It's true. Yeah. So that's not Vaishnava culture. So here Prabhupada is saying, Krishna's happy when you're forgiving. That's a good reason to be forgiving, isn't it? Have you ever said, I just can't forgive? Raise your hand if you've ever said, I just can't forgive. Okay. All of those who didn't raise your hand now. It's I just can't forgive. Here's another one. I don't know why I should forgive. Like he doesn't deserve my forgiveness. Why should I forgive what he did? It was so bad. You'll have all these reasons why you either don't understand how to forgive or why you should forgive. And Prabhupada's saying, you do it because Krishna's pleased. You don't need more of a reason than that, do you? If you know Krishna will be pleased. I just can't forgive him. In one workshop we did, this one devotee, doing some exercise, and I was walking around, she's come over here and said, I just can't forgive him. He just doesn't deserve forgiveness. He doesn't. It was her ex-husband. So that would be something, only an ex-wife would say to an ex-husband who made her life miserable. He doesn't deserve my forgiveness. But that's not what Prabhupada is saying here. He's saying, you want to please Krishna? Forgive. It's not a question of you think they deserve it or not. Now, of course, the problem for many is the standard line is, but if I forgive him, he's going to do it again. Yes, that's a common thing, Okay, that's understandable, but it doesn't have to be that way. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're empowering him to do it again. You forgive him and say, if you do it again, there's going to be repercussions. I'm not condoning you. What I'm doing is I'm letting you out of my life because I don't want you in my heart and all the hatred I have towards you. I want to get rid of that. So by forgiving, I get rid of that. As far as you doing it again, we won't allow it. I had a friend, her husband became a drug addict and he became very violent. So she had to get a restraining order on him. Prevented him from coming within 3 miles of her house. But she told me, said, I forgave him. I didn't get the restraining order because I have any revenge and I want to get back. It's just safety for me and my kids. So sometimes you can take actions which look like revenge, which are just protection. There's no revenge in your heart. So when you forgive, you please Krishna. And what's so interesting about resentment There's a couple of things that I find so interesting. Number one, I do forgiveness workshops for devotees. I do it for non-devotees, but I've done more for devotees, and I've probably done about 30. So that means 30 different cities, 30 different temples, or maybe 25. In some temples I've done it more than once. And I joke with the devotees. I say, do you believe in the law of karma? Of course, I know everybody does. Right? Who believes in the law of karma? Raise your hand. Okay, so why are you at a forgiveness workshop? Nothing can happen that you didn't create. So what are you doing here? Why are you upset about what someone did to you? It doesn't make sense, does it? It's so interesting, isn't it? So what we understand from that is what we understand with our head and what we feel in our heart are not always the same. So someone has hurt me, I understand it's my karma, but still, he hurt me, he did the wrong thing, he should be punished, etc., etc. You know, isn't it? Instead of, oh, I deserve so much worse. I've just got off light. He's just the messenger of my karma. I just created this situation. Why don't we think like that? It's so interesting. Because we're human beings and we get upset.
No, but I thought I had better karma than that.
Yamaraj made a mistake. So, yeah, it's interesting. Yes?
Question. If somebody does something to you and it did hurt you, you can forgive them. But what about if that person did something to another devotee?
Yeah.
Should you forgive them?
Well, she's asking, what if someone hurt another devotee? Should you forgive them? The problem, okay, let me go on with what I was explaining. I think it'll answer your question. Resentment is a form of anger. Revenge, getting back, hatred, you know, all that good stuff, right? So, what mode is anger in? Tamaguna. So, if we remain resentful, then we're attracting or connecting with tamaguna, which obviously we don't want. If we remain forgiving, we're connecting either with the transcendental, depending on our level, or at least with sattva-guna. So here, Prabhupada's saying the duty of a Brahmin is to culture the quality of forgiveness, because Brahmins are sattvic, and forgiveness can be sattvic, but can be transcendental also, depending on how you're forgiving. But let's say, for the sake of this discussion, it's just sattva-guna. So if I'm forgiving, I'll remain sattvic. If I don't, I'll be affected by the mode of ignorance. And one aspect of the effect of the mode of ignorance is this thing which happened last week, last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's still making me angry. And when I see that person, I don't like him. I don't want to think about him. I don't want to see it about him. I don't want to see him. So it's having a bad effect. The mode of ignorance is working on us. So, yes, that person did something wrong. Okay. Hate the sin, not the sinner. Protect your friend from that person. Help your friend. But if you carry around hatred towards that person, that's not good. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said something amazing. He said two things amazing. First thing he said is, we should only desire the greatest good for our worst enemy. And then he said, a devotee doesn't hate anybody. If you're a devotee, you do not hate anybody. Even you're not allowed to hate Donald Trump if you're a devotee. So if you hate Donald Trump, you must not be a devotee. Hare Krishna. Or maybe you are a devotee. You're not a devotee if you don't hate him. I don't know. But you understand the principle. The heart of a Vaishnava, in theory, the pure Vaishnava, there's no hatred. So if I'm finding hatred in my heart, even though someone has harmed a devotee, and I should protect that devotee, and I hate what that person did, I shouldn't hate the person, because that, again, pulls me into the mode of ignorance.
What about, so that might make me in the mode of goodness, but if that person does not change, and how has that contributed to his change? Because, I've seen 20 years later, he's still doing the same silly things, or burning people or whatever. So how is that helping that other person?
All you can do is do something external to prevent that from happening. Or if it is happening, to report it or catch him or in some way do something to rectify it. But your forgiveness may not change him at all. And that's not, obviously we can't control that. Sometimes it will change them, but sometimes it won't. Is that okay? Because if you externally deal with it, okay, this person does X, Y, and Z, we have to protect devotees from him. Maybe he'll never change. But I'm not going to spend my whole life hating him. I just hate what he does. But I don't want to think about him, 20 years later. But if I have to do something to prevent him from doing it, that I will do. It's the caring. It's like Nelson Mandela said, when he was leaving prison, he said, I knew when I was leaving prison, if I didn't forgive the people who imprisoned me, even though I'd be leaving prison, I would still be in prison. So it's the Brahminical life. He's forgiving, he's tolerant, etc., etc. That's how he is. Like the story of the yogi. We'll get to your question in a minute. The story of the yogi and the scorpion. The yogi is picking up the scorpion, trying to get the scorpion out of the water, and the scorpion is biting the yogi. And so he keeps getting bitten, but eventually he got the scorpion out of the water, and some man was saying, went up to him and said, I watched you picking up the scorpion getting bit, and then you picked it up again and got bit, and picked it up again and got bit. You got bit so many times until you could get it out of the water. So why did you do that? And he said, well, I learned a lesson. He said, I was trying to help the scorpion, but I realized it's his nature to bite, so even if you try to help him, he's going to still bite. So then I thought, well, it's my nature to help. So if the scorpion won't give up his nature to bite, even though I help, why should I give up my nature to help, even though he's biting? So I had a conversation with a godbrother the other day, and I was saying, how do you deal with devotees who turn on you? They just attack you. They make up stories about you. What do you do? And he said, never, ever, ever act in a way other than the way a devotee should act. Because that's when we're tempted to come down and fight back with the same tamagun that's being shot at us, isn't it? So I thought that was such good advice. Because here it is, they're shooting tamagun, making up complete fabrications. You did this, you did that, spreading it on the internet. And plus, these were people that were close to you at one point. And it's like very frustrating. And you want to tell them you're wrong, you want to tell everybody how bad they are. And he said, no. He said, always be affectionate towards them, be kind towards them, say, I'm sorry if I did anything. I wasn't aware I did anything to hurt you, if there's anything I can do to rectify it. He said, always act as a Vaishnava. And I really appreciated that. Because, in those times, it's like, we can get borderline, Should I pull out the gun and shoot them, or should I pull out Sattvagun and just be happy and, Hare Krishna, yes. So I think that's important. I think that story of the yogi, that's such a good story. Because, I joke with people, I go, what do you, when you get a present for your birthday from the dollar store, from a friend, what do you give them for their birthday? A Rolex watch? No, you give them a pen or a pair of socks from the dollar store, because that's what they gave you. And usually that's what life is like. You give back what people give you. And so sometimes they give you a lot of dirt, so you give them dirt back. And when they're nice, you're nice. It's easy to be nice when people are nice. It's not easy to be nice when they're not nice. So I think that's a big challenge for us as devotees. How to be nice when people aren't nice to us. And I think that's what Prabhupada is saying here. Look at all the characteristics of a devotee. So many of those qualities are relational. They're in relationship to people. Kind, humble, meek, tolerant. Those are all qualities you exhibit to other people. I mean, to yourself also, and to circumstances, but generally we're contacting people, and these are qualities that we exhibit to people. So I think Krishna sends nasty people to us just to help us. What do you think? There's a story. It's So there's a story. This one little boy, he was like 5 years old. An angel came to him. So the angel said, in this life, as in every life, you have a chance to develop a divine quality. And he lists all the divine qualities. Kindness, humility, forgiveness, tolerance, integrity, cleanliness, so on. And the angel says, in this life, what quality do you want to develop? And the boy says, I want to develop forgiveness. The angel says, very well then, I will come back in a few years in another life as your enemy. And the boy said, enemy! Why would you come back as my enemy? And the angel said, if you don't have an enemy, how will you learn to forgive? So, people say, how are you going to learn compassion unless somebody does something to disturb you, and now you can try to be nice. So, I have not yet figured out a better way to respond to the tamagun than sattvagun or transcendental. I can't figure out a better way to do it. Because otherwise, it's like, this scenario, this is such a paradox. Somebody's doing something wrong, right? No, somebody's complaining. They're always complaining. And then you complain about them complaining. Have you seen that? It's like, you're complaining about them complaining. Hello? Are the lights on up here? It's like you can't fight fire with fire. Although they say that. It's not the way the fire department works. So, I always thought you fight fire with water, isn't it? Yeah. So, this person did something bad because they're always complaining and then we're complaining about them. So this is like, we don't want to respond that way. We want to respond from a higher position, right? Yes? So, someone had a question? You have the mic.
Basically, just answer it. Because I was going to say, a few days ago, me and some devotees from Montreal, we went for a kirtan. And so there was this homeless person who came to us and started to cussing at us and just telling us to scram. So I knew this was, a test, because a few days before that, apparently something happened and some devotees got kicked out because they were doing a kirtan in front of the library, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was definitely a test. And so my question is the following. Do those things happen for a reason? It's not just random, it's because you have to learn something. As soon as you will learn them, you will not have to see them as threats.
Yeah, both. I think they happen for both. Sometimes they happen because Krishna wants to teach you something and he's giving you a chance. And sometimes it happens because people aren't Krishna conscious and they just harass devotees. Like, for example, I spent many years in San Diego, and it's a very conservative city, and it was a very small airport where we would distribute, and a lot of the workers, and it wasn't a small airport that half the day there's nobody in the airport, so there's nothing for the workers to do except look at us approach, the stray Navy man, and get a lot of money from him because he just got paid, and he walks away with a stack of books, and it really, really agitates them. So after a while, some of the workers there would come up to us and just knock into us and knock us over, take books from people who bought them, rip them up, post the ripped covers all around the airport, go into our face and scream at us. And I was thinking, do demons only take birth in San Diego airport? Or, is this a test, for these 4 Sankirtan devotees? They need this test. Of course we need the test, but, ultimately, free will of people to do it. But people will do what they do. But we're supposed to take it, Krishna sent this person to me to teach me how to be tolerant. That's why Krishna created mother-in-laws, to teach tolerance, especially Indian mother-in-laws. To learn high degrees of tolerance. Actually, there's nothing wrong with Indian mother-in-laws. The only thing that's wrong is there's a generation gap. The daughter-in-laws are from a new generation. So it's so hard. But that's how we're supposed to think. Okay, so This is what I think. Okay, let me throw this out. Well, I won't throw it out. We'll deal with this tomorrow. But what I think when I'm in a situation like that, I think, what if there was a camera on me right now? From the Spirit. And if that film was going to Krishna or going to Prabhupada. Okay, this is how I acted in this situation. And then you find out, hey, we got a film of that that's going to Prabhupada. No, don't send it. Give me another chance. Give me another chance. Delete that. Let's do it again. Tell that guy to yell at me. I know how I want to behave. So I like to think like that. Whenever I'm in a situation like that, where I'm tempted to degrade my status from sattva to something lower, the cameras are on me. And what if someone had that film here and they were going to show it to all of you? Would that be embarrassing? Yeah, it could be. Right? So in our forgiveness workshop, we do an exercise, and maybe we'll do it here if we have time. We'll have to see. It's a beautiful exercise where you think of someone you're forgiving and you think of the story, what happened, and then you play the part of Krishna. And then you tell that story from Krishna's perspective. Like you have your perspective. He's this and he's that, stupid, blah, 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 blah. I didn't deserve it and that was unjust and it should have never happened and, they should kick him out of ISKCON and, GBC let him and, it's just like you hate everybody, right? And then you have to tell that same story from Krishna's perspective. So what does Krishna say? Well, I put you in this situation to teach you A, B, C, and D. That's what you end up saying when you do that exercise. You needed to learn this. So what you say is true. And if we need to learn something and we don't learn it, the situation tends to happen again until we learn it. That's why Krishna created wives, to give lessons to their husbands. Sometimes, it's true. Sometimes, you get married and then you think, oh my God, that was the wrong one. And your wife says, I am the right one. Krishna sent me to you. This is what you deserve. This is what you need to learn in this life. He sent me. Angel that'll come back as your So for us, there are only teachers, there are no enemies. Right? So Prabhupada used that phrase. When something bad happened to a devotee, he was upset, and Prabhupada said, no, this is just the messenger of your karma. He's just bringing your karma. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, nobody likes their karma. You go in a restaurant, you order something, and then they bring it to you, and it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like. You ever have that experience? You order a veggie burger, and then you get a big taco and a flat thing and beans, and you're like, oh, this is our veggie burger. Like, what? I don't want it, but you ordered it, So it's like you do all this sense gratification, and then you get the karma, and you go, oh, take it back, I don't want it. So Bhaktisiddhanta said, when people see the fruits of their karma, they don't want it. So, you act a certain way. Your messenger comes with a message. And if you can say, good, I'm supposed to learn something and figure out what it is, then you make progress. I was actually giving a class on this point once. I was saying that whatever you need to learn, Krishna will create a situation to learn it. Does anyone have any experience? And one person says, yes. So he said, I had this boss, he was harassing me. And I couldn't deal with it, and I was so angry, and I wanted to quit, and I wanted to kill him, and etc., etc. He said, and then I just accepted it. This is what Krishna wants. This is what I'm supposed to learn: tolerance and kindness, etc., etc. And he said, then I just got the lesson, and the following week, the boss was transferred to another department. I said, yeah, you got the lesson, so you don't need the bad boss anymore. He was only there for the lesson. And so many devotees were raising their hand with stories of similar stories about somebody doing something. And once they got the lesson, the person all of a sudden became nice. Like that was another story. Once they got the lesson, the person changed. Like amazing stories of what's going on this subtle level. So if you see it that way, what am I supposed to learn from this situation? And you learn it, you'll start to see that situation happens less or it doesn't happen at all. And if the situation keeps happening again, and you wonder, why is the same thing happening again and again? Because Krishna is sending you the same thing until you learn. And once you learn, it tends not to happen. How many of you have that experience? Yeah. So that's interesting. Yes, Krishna Das Kavaraj, you have a... Oh, you just have the microphone. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, let me tell you a story before you ask the question. So, we were doing this exercise. If you're Krishna, see what happened was, we start the workshop where you write down your story. Oh, this happened, this was unjust, unfair, he did this, how could he? You have this story of how you were hurt and how bad everything was, right? And if you're going to be able to forgive, you have to change the story. Because as long as you have that story, you're going to be resentful, right? So we do exercises to change the story. And the speaking as Krishna is like the ultimate exercise to change your story from Tamagun to Shuddha Sattva Gun. So I played the partner for one devotee because she didn't have a partner. And this is what she said. So she's Krishna, and she's speaking to me, and I am her. I play the part of her. And she was saying, this is her. You understand? I'm playing her, she's playing Krishna, so she's saying you to me, which is you is actually her. Yes? She's saying, so what happened was, her mother was on her deathbed, and while her mother was on her deathbed, her father had a girlfriend. And that was when she was 12, and she hadn't forgiven her father. And at this point, she was about 60, 55 or 60. So it's a long time. Let's say 45 years she was holding this. So she explained the story, and then she explained from Krishna's point of view why it was good. And she said, well, after that point, after my mother died and my father went with this woman, I began searching. Krishna said, you began searching for me. It was at that point your spiritual life began. And because of that incident, you began searching for me. And because of that, when you came across the devotees, you were ready for the devotees. And then you therefore became a devotee. And as a devotee, I gave you a wonderful husband, wonderful children, wonderful home, wonderful family, everything. And while she was saying that, I was seeing her transform. Because she never thought like that before. And she was holding on to this for 45 years. And in that 5-minute conversation, she completely went 180 degrees. So when you want to forgive, you have to change the story of resentment. Because as long as you have that story, that vision, you can't let it go. You have to switch the story. Does that make sense? And I think we were talking about that yesterday with the mind. If you have, so many times devotees say, I think like this, but I can't stop thinking like this. That's because you have a story to support the way you're thinking. So if you're holding on to resentment and you're saying, I just can't give it up, I don't know how to give it up, it's easy. Change your story about what happened. Like, maybe this was good. Maybe I deserve this. Maybe there's a lesson here I needed to learn. So that's what Krishna tells you. He gives you. So when you do that exercise, it's amazing. You tell the story from Krishna's perspective, and then you get all the lessons. So I love telling that story because 45 years later, in 5 minutes, she completely switched her story and let her resentment go. Isn't that amazing? Gaura's got a question, then we can... Yes?
Comment?
Yes?
And a question. So I remember when I was growing up as a little boy, Mom would say, now son, 2 wrongs don't make a right. If I want to, get even with someone that had hit me on the head with the shovel or whatever. And more recently, you sometimes hear devotees say, if they've been rude to you, don't come down to their level. Same way of saying the same thing. But my question to you, my dear Prabhu, is you were saying we want to respond from a higher level. So I was just wondering if you could give a couple of examples in your life. Of course, I know you don't mention names. Of where someone was obnoxious to you or rude, and how you showed that example of responding from a higher level, where you were really felt tested.
Well, sometimes I just don't respond. Sometimes the best I can do is not respond. Sometimes it's hard to love a person when they have a gun in your head. But I think I've mastered the art of neutralizing. Just like, okay, all right, gun in my head, okay, all right, can I go now? And yeah, it was nice knowing you. And like, just, okay, not go home and, call up my mafiosa friends and go, let's get back at this guy now. I know where he lives. So sometimes neutralizing is what I can do. This godbrother, when I asked him what I should do for these people who turned against me, actually some of them were disciples before, he said, show them affection. He said, every month write them a letter and say, I still have great affection for you. I thought that's so interesting. He said, because that's how you should be as a devotee. You shouldn't hate anyone. You should always have affection, right? So that conversation actually happened about 5 days ago. And while he was telling me that, I was writing the emails to these people. And it felt very good. Because I'm going to Argentina. I have a disciple that left me and she never told me. And she's there, so I just wrote her and I said, I have great affection for you. I always think of you. It would be so nice to see you. Otherwise, I could think, how could you leave me? You didn't even tell me. What kind of disciple are you? Naturally, we'll feel that way, isn't it? Somebody leaves you. So I appreciated so much what he was saying. He said, always act as a Vaishnava, which is show compassion, show kindness. Don't go into the lower modes of nature and show anger and hatred and so forth. So, is it easy? No. Can we do it? Do we have a choice not to do it? What if we don't do it? Then what happens? Then you're just dealing with the modes of nature. And like for us as Prabhupada disciples, we should be able, at least by now, to show some kind of example of someone can say, you're a dirty, foolish, rascal idiot. And you just say, thank you for saying what everyone else was afraid to say. And at some point in our life, we have to be able to do that, right? Isn't it? Like, how long are we going to stick around and just pretend to be devotees? But so when these things happen, it's like, okay, Krishna, you're giving me a real test. Because I'm always telling devotees, yeah, you should be loving and kind and warm and fuzzy. And now it's happening to me, It's like, okay, Mahatma, step up to the plate, So I think, some person said, one of the best advices I ever got, some person said, if you would just follow your own advice, your life would be amazing. So think of every class you ever gave and everything you said, and if you just followed that, So, I'm going around telling people to forgive, and now somebody's harassing me. What am I supposed to do? Then, somebody on Facebook is going to show the video. Here's the guru of love. Look at him. How could you leave me, you stupid idiot? So, like, when are we actually going to, live what we've been teaching? That's how I feel. So that gives me impetus. So usually, I think I was saying in the class in Montreal, don't ever hit the send button when you're angry. Always hit send later when you're angry. And then tomorrow read it, and then take out all the adverbs and adjectives. Because that's usually the problem when you're angry. It's adjectives. So, I'm trying to think of an example. Well, let me tell the story. This is a beautiful story. So I worked in Los Angeles and San Diego for many years, and Rameshwar, who was then a sannyasi, was the GBC. And I knew him when he was a brahmachari. We did Sankirtan together. He was Sankirtan leader. And so, it's just interesting when you know a devotee as just a brahmachari sleeping in the same room, fighting with him and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden they become a guru and everyone's bowing to them, But your relationship doesn't change. You still have the same relationship. So we worked together before he was a guru, after he was a guru. And, we were close friends. We'd still fight sometimes about, should we do it this way or that way? So we were building up San Diego Temple, building up LA Temple. San Diego Temple was considered the best temple in America during those years. And then one day I see on the bulletin board a letter My dear disciples, I have left Krishna consciousness. I am no longer your guru. Find shelter somewhere else. Sign Rameshwar. He never told us, the leaders. He's just gone. I know now why he left, but what a shock. And the Twin Towers coming down, that picture? That's what the San Diego temple looked like. It just went crashed. I was so upset. I was so angry. And I couldn't forgive him. And the only way I forgave him was 18 years later. Someone facilitated a forgiveness exercise, and I forgave him. 18 years. So, 5 years later, this is 23 years after this happened, I see him at Rath Yatra in Los Angeles. So I was feeling, those whole 18 years, I was feeling completely let down, betrayed entirely, and angry. And it was so amazing when he saw me. He looked at me and he said, I know I let you down. Please forgive me. And he just put his head down. He didn't even want to look. He just didn't even want to talk about it. I said, isn't that interesting? That means that the day he left, he was feeling bad. And I was trying to bash him into the ground. How could you do this? No integrity. You're such a bad person. I can't forgive you. And so when I finally did the forgiveness process, I had a realization. And I couldn't have had this realization without forgiving him. I had the realization that I had no compassion for him because I hated what he did. I couldn't be kind to him. What should I have done? Really, think about it. What should I have done? We're friends. I should have called him and said, can I help you? I'm here for you. I understand this was a tough job. You became guru when you were 27. You're a sannyasi when you were 26. You never had a girlfriend in your life. I understand this. I know what you're going through. I'm sorry to, I'm here to help you. I didn't do that. Bang, bang, bang. You have no integrity. How can you do that? The whole temple crashed. I was angry. But until I forgave, I couldn't realize that I acted improperly. And then I had another realization, which is even more crazy. In 1981, I left him and went to South Africa. I just walked out on him. I said, I don't like you. I don't like the way you preach. I don't like the way you manage your zone. I never want to see your ugly face again. I'm leaving. I didn't say ugly face. I didn't even say face. I just said, I'm leaving. And I went to South Africa. So I was all upset that he betrayed us, and only after I forgave did I realize I betrayed him 4 years before that. But until I forgave, I couldn't understand these things because I was in the mode of ignorance, just punishing. Isn't that interesting? So the whole reason I started doing forgiveness workshops was because I forgave him. And it changed, so many things changed when I forgave him. I was thinking, this is unbelievable. I had no idea that there's so much transformation in forgiving. So I said, I have to teach this. So those were 2 transformations. There are many transformations. But I think one of the biggest transformations, and this would answer your question, I think I was saying this the other day, that once I experienced forgiveness, then if anyone ever hurt me again, I would never allow myself to be resentful because I felt so good to be free from resentment. And sometimes people, like God brothers or someone, you're going to let him do that? You're going to let him say that? You should get back at him, and don't you feel bad? And I would say, I don't even think about it. I don't even want to think about it because I don't want to go where I was with Rameshwar because it was such a low state. So it's kind of like I'm insulated. Not that I'm so elevated, but it's just that it's so nice to be free from resentment that I'm not, it's like the carrot. I always tell everybody, every day there's carrots in front of you. Not temptation for sense gratification, temptation to get angry at somebody. Temptation to get back at someone, isn't it? They're all over the place, isn't it? How many times are you tempted by the misbehavior of people? I was very sick a few months ago, and I was talking to this devotee. He says, well, my wife has mystic power. She can see things. He says, somebody's cursing you. And I knew who it was. And it's just like, this poor girl this is what she needs to do. And somehow Krishna just helped me, just like, don't go there. Because it's such a bad, I'd rather suffer physically than go there. So that's my experience. That's how powerful forgiveness was for me, that I don't go there. I don't know how else to say it. It's just, I want to stay in Krishna consciousness, and I know these things can pull me right out of it. You know, having a big conversation, fault finding this one, that one, you know, juicy gossip. You know that there was a play in New Vrindavan called Japa Man. So this devotee's trying to, you know, chant japa. He's at work, lunch break, and everybody's gossiping. And they go up to him and they go, juicy gossip. You got some juicy gossip? Give me some juicy gossip. And he says, no, I'm chanting Hare Krishna. No, some juicy gossip. You know, and then he breaks down and then he comes out with the juicy gossip, you know. So our life is like that. There's always a temptation to just get knocked off your Krishna consciousness by something. And so when I see people are against me or someone's doing something wrong and this and that, I'm very careful how I deal with it. And if I have to deal with it, I try as best I can not to come in that situation that I have to correct with vengeance or criticism or anything but just understanding and affection. Because I know if I don't, I'm going to get degraded by it. In the process of trying to solve this problem, I get degraded because I become angry, I say the wrong thing, I mistreat a devotee. That's very easy, and I've done it before, and I deeply regret it. You know, I had a meeting with a devotee, and I knew what they were going to ask me, and I knew how I was going to respond, and I should have just said, let's meet another day, because I responded in a way that they couldn't take it. I didn't say anything wrong, but it was the wrong thing. You know the difference? You didn't say anything wrong, you just said the wrong thing. You said the right thing at the wrong time to the wrong person. And it wasn't taken well. So, sometimes you just got to shut up. Isn't it? Sometimes just don't say anything, because as soon as you say anything, you're going to go right down. 16 good rounds, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And then some situation, and one word, those good rounds are all kaput. Isn't it? Yes.
Yes. You were saying earlier that if someone were to insult you, you stupid idiot or whatever, and you just go, thank you. So that reminded me.
Finally, someone has realized what I'm actually like.
So you were reminding me of, allegedly this is somewhere in Mahabharata, where Bhishma is teaching, perhaps it's on his bed of arrows, that if someone finds fault with you, then you should say thank you, because you understand that by their finding fault in you, they're absorbing your negative qualities and they're giving you their good qualities. What are your thoughts on that?
Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, if you find fault with someone, you're giving them your good karma and you're getting their bad karma. Does anyone want to find fault with me? It's totally fine. I'll be very happy. No, but 5 minutes? No. What Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, that's pretty heavy. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, you give them your good karma, your piety, when you find fault with them, and you get their bad karma. So, you may want to make a tattoo on your forehead, so you remember that. So, one second. What Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, he said, if somebody finds fault with you, you should think, Lord Chaitanya has come to make you more humble than a blade of grass. And if somebody praises you, you should think they're telling you what you should become. Prabhu, you're so humble. Oh, that means I should become humble. Prabhu, you're so tolerant. That means I should become tolerant. Oh, Prabhu, you are so intolerant. Thank you. That's why I always joke. I say, if you want to become humble, you have to become married. Because your spouse will tell you what's wrong with you. And although it's funny, it's true. And you don't have to be married. It happens more often though.
Or have an honest friend.
Yeah, honest friend.
Not there to praise you.
Yeah. To come to the point where you can appreciate when someone is giving you constructive feedback, That requires humility. There's no question. Every morning we're, it's like nursery school, And I'm looking at everybody and going, It's like this verse is so high, When was the last time someone said, you did that wrong and you didn't fight back? Like maybe 25 lifetimes ago, maybe that happened. But when people say that, we always fight back. We're always, well, you do that too. Well, who are you to tell me? I'm an older devotee, isn't it? I never did that. What are you talking about? You must be thinking of somebody else. That's our natural reaction. And next morning, it's so funny. We should make cartoons like this. Two devotees arguing the next morning. So, you can come to the point where someone comes up to you and says, you said this and it wasn't right or wrong. And you can listen to it and hear it and consider it. That's really where we're supposed to be. And if we're not there today, we're supposed to be working on that. So personally, I think that's where we need to be. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry.
Actually, there's two. There's ladies.
Okay.
So just a little comment that, it happens to everybody, I'm sure, who's a driver. You get cut off or something, and you start to feel the road rage. And Purnamasi has come up with this thing that she says, I curse them to get a Bhagavad Gita. And so we've just completely forgotten.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You reminded me of, I have a mantra also. If anything bothers you, this is my mantra. You just say, very interesting. Prabhu, you know what happened today? Someone said something very interesting to me. And you just nullify it. That means they criticized you. So anytime you're about to get upset, intolerant, instead of doing it, just say, that was very interesting. My daughter and I do that when my wife cooks something we don't like. How was it? It was very interesting. It's a polite way of saying we didn't like it. Or it was very healthy. It tasted very healthy. A polite way. But she never cooks anything we don't like. It's really rare. But occasionally, like one thing, once or twice a year. We have one or two very interesting preparations a year. But, I've given seminars where we've talked about this, tolerance, very interesting. And for the next few days, devotees are going around, oh, you won't believe what just happened. It was very interesting. And everybody's laughing and nobody's upset. Whereas otherwise, we'd all be upset about what happened. So it's a possible mantra also. Yeah. Yes?
So, just my question might sound maybe so forgiveness, like any other process, might have steps and require time.
Yes.
So not everybody is at the stage where we can right away turn the situation into a better story, learn the lesson, and move on. So what are the reasonable steps, like a normal devotee?
Oh yeah. Oh, this is good. I'm glad you asked. My website, mahatmadas.com, easy to remember, mahatmadas.com. If you go on the website, we have 2 online forgiveness courses, which you can take. And there's no fee if you'd like to give a donation. Or it might be $1 or something to get into the site, to get into the course. But we've made it free, and whatever you want to give or not give is fine. And then we have 2 courses. One is a shorter course, with 10 lessons, and one is a longer course with 33 lessons. So if your forgiveness is pretty deep and long-standing, take the long course, and it goes through, there's 25 exercises in that, and it takes you through step by step by step. And it's something I developed over maybe 10 years of teaching. So it's very powerful. And all the material, there's 100 pages of material, of text. It's very thorough. It's kind of like a master's paper in forgiveness. So that would be very helpful. That has all the steps. And any one of you who want to take it, feel free to go to my site, mahatmadas.com, and somewhere on there it'll have the forgiveness course. And then you just register for it, and then... Yes?
But there was a question over here.
You had a question?
Actually, yes. Actually, she asked my question.
Okay.
But we have a second question. What she was asking actually. Are there any situations when the punishment is actually needed, or always should be
Yeah,
on the
well,
level of forgiveness?
well, that's a good question. It depends who you are. A parent or a kshatriya. If you're in a position of authority, like guru, parent, yeah, a punishment may be necessary. But it doesn't mean that you have resentment, that the punishment's coming out of your resentment. The punishment's coming out of your love or concern. If the punishment is coming out of your resentment, then I would say, no, don't punish. I would say only punish when there's no resentment. Because that punishment is just fostering your resentment. So punishment and resentment don't mean they go together. Judges punish people all the time. Doesn't mean they have any resentment. And I would say, unless the judge is fair and balanced, how can they make a decision? So unless you're free from resentment, how would you know how to punish? Or who to punish, when to punish, how much to or not to? Right? So that's my realization of that. Like, you know, if you're a kshatriya, obviously you have to punish. That's your job. But you're not punishing because you're resentful. You're punishing to protect people. You want to hear a funny story? So there's all these kids, right? They're playing. The mothers are around, right? And one kid's going around, he's beating all the other kids up, right? And one mother says, "That's my boy. He's a kshatriya." And one sannyasi says, "Kshatriyas don't beat up people. They protect people. Your son is a shudra." So, you know, real kshatriya doesn't, you know, just go beat up people because he hates them. No, he's, you know, forgiveness is the quality of a kshatriya also. The Shastra says the only people who don't forgive are Vaishyas. I don't know, someone else can explain that. Is that forgiveness is a quality everyone has except the Vaishyas. They sell you a bad product, it doesn't work, and they don't forgive you. I don't know what it means. Someone else had a...
30 years ago, I was in Montreal in a bar where I used to go listen to jazz and meet people. And one night, there's this man coming in the bar, very intoxicated, and everyone can see that he's looking for trouble. And he went to that point. All he was saying was nonsense. Everyone was able to see, but he was so good at what he was doing that everyone was feeling trouble by his behavior. And there were this women who just asked him, as if he was really a kid of 3 years old, asking him, "What's wrong? Just tell me what's wrong." And he just had nothing to say, but he had no choice to come to her and to say, "Oh, there's not right, but you are right." And he gave her a hug, she accepted, and he left the bar. And there were people, like the one who were playing pool, they had their stick, and they were really ready to fight, you know. But just with talking the more fragile part in him.
Yeah.
Empathy.
Yeah. It's because it's sattvic. It's more powerful. And sattvic is more powerful. You know, humility is so powerful. And aggression, you know, it seems powerful, but it's powerful in the mode of ignorance. It seems powerful for people in those modes. Yeah. Sattva is always the most powerful. So, that was basically the introduction. So, but because we have this online workshop, so any of you who are interested in pursuing forgiveness, one course is about 4.5 hours, and there's not much work, and there's nothing to read, it's just a few exercises. And one, there's a lot to read, and there's a lot of exercises, and that's called the intensive course. So they're both on my website. You can get the links. It takes you to another page called Bhakti Education Online. And actually there's 3 courses. There's a self-esteem course. And let me put in a pitch now. We're creating this Bhakti Online education, and right now we're working on an introductory course for brand new people, like people for first few months in ISKCON, where there's like around 50 lessons on all the basics. We've been having a really hard time finishing because we realized we need more money than we have. So we're trying to get video editors, to say, we have any video editors that want to volunteer some time, or any millionaires that have too much money, don't know what to do with it. We want to create many, many courses. We want to get the Japa retreat online, have a course on vows, marriage course, so many courses we want to get online. And the big thing is some technical people and some video editors. So right now we're having to pay for devotees to do this. We're running out of money. But this is the project, and it'll all be free. We just ask for donations, you give or you don't give. So that's the project we're working on, Bhakti Education Online. If anyone is interested, they can ask me and see how they can help. Okay? Definition I've ever heard of forgiveness, and I have to say it twice because nobody gets it the first time, or not everyone gets it the first time. To give up all hope for a better past. I'll say it again. Forgiveness means to give up all hope for a better past. You like that? I have many definitions. You want more? Yeah. This is another really good definition. Instead of giving people what they deserve, because they hurt you, you give them what they don't deserve. Kindness. So forgiveness, that's why it's so hard, because you're giving them what they don't deserve. They deserve to be punched in the nose and you're kissing them. That's why, but this is what I realized. This is what I realized. That a lot of people in the forgiveness workshop, they come to this point and they say, I just can't forgive. And I realized that the reason they're saying that is because they're trying to logically figure out, why should I forgive them? So they, well, they did this, and so it's going to this logical mind, and the logical mind is all tit for tat. Why should I do it? They did this. They don't deserve it. They caused so many problems. If I forgive them, they'll keep doing it. Forgiveness is it doesn't happen logically. It happens with the heart. So what I see in my forgiveness workshops is when people forgive, it's not like, oh, A, B, C, D, oh, that makes sense, okay. It doesn't work that way at all. Something happens in their heart where it's just like, they just let it go. They just drop it. So if you get caught up in the logical, you'll never forgive because it won't make sense. The only way we can make sense of it logically is that if you forgive, it'll help you. It's good for you. So when people say, he doesn't deserve my forgiveness, I say, but you deserve your forgiveness. Yes? Okay, he doesn't deserve it, but you do. It's not helping you. In fact, it's time to scare you. Go on Google and Google cancer and resentment. Get a good scare. Resentment is like the worst thing you could possess. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's totally destructive. But, so we started out saying you should forgive because it's pleasing to Krishna. But if you need some material reason to forgive, there's plenty. Because it's toxic on all levels. And you're just punishing yourself. Right? You know that statement. I'm sure many of you heard the statement where Nelson Mandela said, resentment is like drinking poison, hoping the other person will die. Because that's exactly what happens. It's like you're killing yourself. So we do this exercise in our workshop. It's so funny. It's so much fun. We make a list. We say, okay, what are the benefits that you get by holding on to resentment? Which is kind of a paradox because there really aren't benefits, but they're perverted benefits. So we make this long list of benefits. I get to be a martyr. I get to have excuses. I get to get back at people. We make all these lists of all these perverted benefits. And then we realize that We're holding on to resentment because there's something we're getting. And I can get back at I got something against this person, and I can, any point in time, I can talk about this person, what they're doing. I can get leverage. Then we do another chart, which is, what are the costs? Well, how much does it cost to hold on to resentment and get all these wonderful benefits? And we look at the cost. Destroy your spiritual life, destroy your health, destroy your japa, destroy your relationships. You just go down the list, and then we put the two charts up there. And we say, well, what do you think, Prabhus and Matajis? It's kind of expensive, isn't it? You think it's worth it? Everyone looks at it. She goes, no, it's not really worth it. So that's the most logical way to look at it from your own perspective. And there's a story, this teacher, she told her students, they said, go home, and for every person you hate, get a potato and write their name on it. So if you hate 10 people, 10 potatoes, right? And bring it back in a bag, and you'll have an assignment. And so everybody brought their bag. And so, some people had heavy bags because they hated a lot of people. And so the teacher just completely changed them up, and she said, okay, the assignment for the rest of the week is you have to carry the bag with you 24 hours a day. When you bathe, when you play sports, when you sleep, when you eat, you have to carry the bag. Somehow or other, that bag has to be with you. Of course, they were complaining. And every day they said, teacher, do we have to do it? And she said, yeah, you have to. And if you don't, you're in trouble. So when they brought the bag back the last day, they were like totally relieved. And they've been complaining all week. It's too heavy and it's smelly because some of them got it wet in the shower, and then the potatoes started smelling, and they have to sleep with it and eat with it, and it's like this. But she wanted to teach them a lesson. You can imagine the lesson. She said, yeah, this is what it's like when you carry hatred with you. It's heavy, it's burdensome, right? So, okay, here's some books. I'm holding the books out. It's not that hard. How hard will it be to hold these out for the next 5 hours? The next day? It'll be too heavy. So you're holding resentment with you day after day after day after day. You don't think it's doing something? And most of us repress it to the point we don't even know we have it. Do you want to hear something really funny? It's sad, but it's funny. So in the beginning of the workshop, we tell everyone, I want you to take a resentment issue you have and work on that in the workshop, one issue. And then some devotees say, well, I'm not sure this is a resentment. And I say, if you're not sure it's a resentment, it is. Because if it wasn't, you would be sure it wasn't. And why do I say that? This is experience. Because every time someone says, well, I'm not sure, this fight with this person, but I think I'm over it, I'm not sure. And I say, okay, that's fine. Just work on it, because I want to teach you the process, and you need something to work on. So it doesn't matter if you think it is. And so then we do an exercise. And in this exercise, your partner plays the person you're trying to forgive, and you just let them have it. You tell them how angry you are for what they did. And we tell the devotees, go outside so no one has to hear you, because a lot of devotees are cursing. They're so angry and screaming and crying. And every devotee, after they do this exercise, who had I'm not sure if it was an issue, they come back and they go, oh my God, what an issue that was. I had no idea. Because it was all inside, and that exercise let it come out. That was the purpose of the exercise, to come out. So then I have a friend who did the 12-step program. And part of the 12-step program is you write down all your resentments. And he wrote me, he said, I have 150 resentments. I'm like, how could you have 150 resentments? But they get you to think of every little thing that ever happened in the past that still bothers you today. And you realize there's so much going on inside. And it's all harming us. It's killing us. What to speak of not forgiving ourselves. That's a whole other class. So it's very toxic. Yes?
One last thing. To learn how to give forgiveness, but I have issues in my personal history. I did something wrong to some
right.
family people, and I'm hoping for their forgiveness.
Oh yeah, right.
It's so distant, and, I don't want to wake up all sorts of
right.
issues and bad feelings. So. But it would be nice to have some closure. I would really want that to be such a relief for me.
Yeah, why don't you do it?
Trying. It's selfish. It's selfish, actually. Because I don't
Well-
feel good about what I did.
But it's also good for your Krishna consciousness. And Krishna will be pleased. I think that's the main thing. If Krishna's pleased, if it'll please Krishna, do it. Right? You agree? But there's another problem. If you have an issue with somebody and you tell them, I forgive you, and they don't think they've done anything, that's going to make it worse. Gokulananda, it's been a long time, and I just want to tell you from the core of my heart, I forgive you. Forgive me for what? What are you talking about? I never did anything to you. So just, sometimes it's better.
Yeah, you got to explain what you're trying to forgive. You're supposed to be forgiving him on this behalf. I just want to make a point in regards to, we grow up with values.
Yes.
And we learn what we're supposed to do, what's supposed to be good, what's supposed to be bad. And we're told if you do bad things, well, you'll get punished. So you grow up with that idea, and when you see people doing bad things to others or to yourself, you figure, well, how come they're not getting punished? Because that's what they taught me, and that's why I'm not doing these things, because I don't want to get punished. But they're getting away, and I'm supposed to be forgiving them. So am I not just encouraging this person to just, if he doesn't get punished, he's got away with it, right? Okay, sucker, see you later, right? You're just an imbecile, I just ripped you off, and you're doing nothing about it. So I'm going to just move on and get some other sucker, right? There's a sucker born every second.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to punish this guy so he learns a lesson, so he doesn't do it to somebody else.
Maybe sometimes, and maybe not. It will depend on the situation and how it's going to affect you and how it's going to affect him. And if
How do you judge that?
sometimes you let Krishna deal with it.
Sometimes.
You say, well, I don't have to
50-50?
I don't have to play God. It will depend on the person. Because, I might say, let Krishna deal with it. You might say, I have to deal with it. That's the way you resolve it. I want to, and I may want to resolve it because I don't want to see this person at large hurting other people. So it depends on the motive. And I think it depends on an individual's nature as well. I know people that justice is the primary reason that they exist. And if there's any injustice, they cannot live. They're enraged until that person is punished. So for them, maybe they have to, because it's degrading them, because they have such a need for justice. And they can't give it up. It's inherent. And I think there's others who can just detach and say, let Krishna deal with it. And so it's if that person is not hurting anybody, or they go somewhere else, or there's nothing you can do, they would prefer to detach. And that way they can just maintain their sanity. So I think it depends on the person also. Those with a more Kshatriya spirit will want justice. Brahmins will tend to be a little more detached sometimes. It's hard to say because it's a specific situation. I always analyze it in terms of the energy put out and the result. And okay, I want to punish him, but it took 5 years. What I could have done in 5 years, I could have built 10 temples, But all he did in 5 years was punish him, so that doesn't make sense. Right? Yes.
So you said that forgiving is a personal process. We must do it primarily for us.
Well, and because Krishna wants it, yeah, both.
So, but from my understanding, I guess the other person doesn't need to know we have forgiven.
Not necessarily. Some people say yes, but it can create more problems. Because here, I'm glad you brought this up. A lot of people think forgiveness is a relationship tool, and they don't want a relationship with that person, so they don't want to forgive them. Because they think, well, if I forgive him, then I'll have to have a relation with Uncle Harry, who abused me when I was 6 years old, and I don't want a relationship with Uncle Harry, and my protection is to not forgive him. But it's not like that.
Because at the same time, what if the person is not here anymore?
Yeah.
We get stuck with that, but we can still forgive.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. You can forgive, your father if he's not here, because it helps you. Ultimately, it helps us in our spiritual life, because otherwise, it's just toxic. And it's just a bad way to live, and it comes out in other relationships.
You're now 5 minutes over.
I am now 5 minutes over. Well, it's only my wife, you know. So it's in the family. She'll forgive me. My wife does not know what resentment is. She doesn't have any resentment for anybody. It's just not part of her. So I can do whatever I want, and she won't care.
As long as she knows she can't go over.
Yeah. Okay, last question, and then we'll have.
Well, this gentleman wants it. He hasn't asked any. So
Yeah, Krishna asked.
right, he hasn't asked yet.
Well, it infringes on our Harinam time. That's the problem.
Thank you very much, Guru, for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Enlightening and informative session. My question is, there's a saying that forgive but don't forget.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Don't forget that you forgave. That's one way of looking at it. Another, I think the general understanding is, okay, you know, you and I went in business together, and I stole all your money. So, okay, you forgive me, but you're not going to do. I'm not going to forget that you stole the money, so I'm not going to make you my business partner again. Something like that. That's more of a management. It's really more of a practical tool. All right, this person stole from you. Okay, you forgive him, but keep him out of your house.
But on the other hand, you should still remember that your forgiveness is not completed.
Maybe, maybe not. It depends. You might be remembering just for self-preservation.